the teaching of the Buddha is, in very short, it can be described as broadening the mind. Because from the time we are born, our mind is narrow. Now what this means is that when we are born, we are only thinking about ourselves. Not even thinking about really a self. The baby that is born, the infant, doesn't even think of himself or herself. That means the baby thinks that the mother and the baby are just one. There is no feeling of separateness. This has been observed by modern psychologists, especially Sigmund Freud spoke about this. It is only later that the infant begins to think of the mother as a separate person. Because sometimes the mother is there and maybe the mother is feeding the baby, but sometimes the mother is not there. And only when the baby begins to cry, the mother will come. Because the mother cannot be there all the time. But when the child thinks of the legs are all the time there, or the arms are all the time there. But this mother who feeds the child is not always there. So the child begins to think, the mother is a separate person. That is how the child begins to realize that. But as time goes, as the child begins to grow up, the child is mainly thinking not about the mother, but about himself or herself. When the child wants food, I need food, or I need, it is too warm, or it is too cold, or uncomfortable, or comfortable. All these things are felt, and you begin to think mainly about yourself. It is only when the child grows up to a certain age, like maybe 5, 6, 7, that the child begins to become aware of the external world. And there are other people around. And so gradually as the child grows up, the child begins to become aware of even the importance of other people. And that importance is mainly for oneself, so that the other person is necessary to get the food or to get what the child wants. So it's gradually that the child begins to become aware of other people and the importance of not hurting other people, the importance of making other people happy. So like that, the child becomes more and more aware of the world outside and other people around, and begins to think of others and become interested in others. That means the mind is getting broadened. And very often, even when they grow up into adulthood, they are mainly concerned about themselves. So it is this becoming interested in others, not just for your sake, but becoming interested in others for their sake. In order not to hurt others, not to harm others, and to help others, to make others happy. That interest gradually has to grow up. It is because we are not interested in others that all the destructive things are done by people. Why people do bad things, why people commit crimes. Now, when we talk about the 5 precepts, what are we talking about? The first precept is about not hurting others. Some people translate it as not to hurt animals. It is not to hurt animals. Even before hurting animals, you should not be hurting human beings. You see, it's not only not hurting animals, it is okay to hurt human beings. That is not what it is. That we should not be hurting human beings or animals or even plants. So this is the first precept. And then not stealing, not committing adultery, not lying, not using harsh words, not carrying tales around, even not drinking alcoholic drinks, but that also makes us lose our mind, proper consciousness, and we may begin to hurt others. So the 5 precepts deal with this problem, that human beings are mainly self-centered, selfish. because all emotions are self-centered. When we desire something, that is self-centered. When we hate something, that is being self-centered. When we are frightened, that is being self-centered. Even when we are worrying over things, that is also being self-centered. So all human beings are self-centered, but what we call becoming civilized is to become interested in others. Civilization means, now when people shake hands, why do people shake hands when they meet? That is a way of showing that you are not going to fight. Because in ancient times, when a person meets a stranger, that person thinks the stranger is an enemy. So they get ready to fight. But as people became more and more civilized, they began to become more friendly towards other people. When you meet a stranger, you tend to become friendly towards the other person. But still, you see, there is a problem created by this thing called culture. If you see a person of another culture, you begin to see this person as someone outside and a stranger, and maybe sometimes frightened, or maybe sometimes seen as an enemy. Today, most of these troubles come up because of cultural differences. So when we find wars coming up, we find that there are two cultures fighting. So culture simply means that in ancient times people began to live together in groups. These human beings, like most animals, they like to live together in groups because these groups started from the family. And then from the one family, the other family, they sometimes get married, and so they begin to get mixed up. But through this process, a whole group develops. In ancient times, people lived in villages, and a village is all related. Everyone is related in that village. You see, living in groups. So when they began to live in groups in this way, they began to speak the same language. They began to eat the similar kind of food. They began to dress in a similar way. They began to sing in a similar way, dance in a similar way, paint pictures in a similar way. This similarity in the way they did things was the culture. That is what we mean by culture. And even their appearance was similar because they were getting intermarried. And they don't even like to get married from another culture. If someone gets married from another culture, that person is condemned for that, doing that. They want to get married only within that culture. And if one person begins to imitate a way of living which belongs to another culture, then that person is again condemned. They don't like to mix. But today, as the world became larger, why? Larger means the communication between cultures, and different cultures begin to come and live in the same country. So there came what is called cultural exchange. And this way, the problems began to arise because people of different cultures want to say that our culture is the better culture than your culture. And they begin to always think that one's own culture is the better culture. Other cultures are inferior. And a habit of one culture becomes superior to that particular people in that culture. And the habits of the other culture becomes inferior. So this kind of thinking is not being civilized. So civilization is really an advancement of people. Culture is a separation of people. As you become civilized, you begin to unite. So this is what is bad about culture. So it is more important to be civilized than to be cultured. Because even if you are cultured, within the culture you are considered to be a well-mannered person if you behave according to that particular culture. But if you go to another culture and behave in that same way, you may be seen as ill-mannered. They might think that you are not a civilized person. You see, so it's very important to understand the importance of being civilized and better than being cultured. And to be civilized, we have to be able to understand others, not only other individuals, but understanding other cultures. And a very important part of a culture is what we call religion. Religion is a part of a culture. So cultures can be even named after religion. You can say a Buddhist culture or a Christian culture or a Islamic culture or whatever culture you call it. So it's connected with the religion. And what is religion? Religion is an effort to become really civilized. That means to make people good, well behaved, so that you don't harm others, you don't hurt others, you cultivate goodwill towards others. That is what all religions are trying to teach. But at the same time, if you stick to one religion and think that this religion is the greatest religion in the world, my religion, then that religiosity is lost because you come in conflict with other religions. Because the different religions in the different cultures, they give different reasons why you should be good. Now, one culture says you should be good because God told you to be good. Another culture says, no, we don't believe in your God. We believe in the Buddha or maybe some other teacher. Even those who believe in God, they begin to come in conflict. One person says, we believe in God, but we have a different teacher who was sent by God, and that is Jesus Christ. One person says. No, the other person says, no, it is not Jesus Christ. Our messenger sent by God to us is Muhammad. So we are different religion. And so you begin to come in conflict. So different religions means you come in conflict. But all religions are talking about peace and being a good. So if we want to become good, that is again broadening our mind. So this broadening of the mind is what we call religion. Religion is an effort to broaden the mind. It is not based on the beliefs. Religion is not a matter of belief. Religion is a matter of broadening our mind, which is becoming civilized. So that means we have to stop thinking in terms of culture. Instead of thinking in terms of culture, we should begin to think in terms of civilization. So when we begin to think in terms of civilization, we begin to unite. And when we begin to unite, the conflicts disappear. That is how we begin to have what is called cultural exchange. I can learn from your culture and you can learn from my culture. So we exchange. And by exchanging, we become civilized. We advance. The advancement comes through civilization. Now, if we look at the West, we have places called United States, United Kingdom, all united. And even in Europe, now the countries are trying to unite. At least they have united the money, one kind of money. That is also a way of uniting. But when we come to the East, still they are becoming attached to the cultures and fighting. Mainly this fighting comes from cultural differences. But most of these Eastern countries are really based on Buddhist teachings, Buddha's teachings. But because of the culture, when people begin to think of cultures, Buddhism disappeared in India. Why? Because of this thing called culture, which separates people. The Buddha, in his teachings, he asked people to give up their cultures. All the disciples of the Buddha were people who gave up the cultures. That is the important thing to understand. Now the Buddha compared this to different rivers coming and falling into the ocean. When different rivers come and fall into the ocean, all the rivers become the ocean. And you can't, once it is in the ocean, you can't say this is that river or this river. You can't identify the rivers. So in the same way, the Buddha said, people of different cultures, different castes, come into this, what is called the Mahasangha. And once all these different people come into the Mahasangha, it becomes just the Sangha. There is no caste system within that Sangha. There is no differences of cultures in the Sangha. They all become one. And even in the thinking also changes. There is only one kind of thinking in that culture. So it's not really Buddhist culture. It is really Buddhist civilization. We are trying to become civilized. This is very important even for a country, for a government. Once a certain king was interested in fighting with a certain group of people and conquering those people. And so he sent a messenger to the Buddha and said, you go and ask this question from the Buddha, and whatever the Buddha says, you come and tell me. Sent a messenger. The king didn't come. So the messenger came and asked the Buddha, this particular, there was a group of, they were not even calling themselves kings, but they were together and governing a certain area. A number of princes governing the area. So the Buddha said, no one can defeat those princes who are governing the area because they always meet together in a peaceful way. They make decisions all together in a peaceful way. And as long as they do that, they cannot be conquered by anyone. So this messenger went back and told the king. So what the king did was send some people to create disunity among these people. And ultimately they did that. They became disunited. And then the king came and conquered them. That's how that king was able to conquer those people. So unity has been taught by the Buddha. The importance of unity. And that unity comes when our mind becomes broadened. So it is that broad mind that will lead to unity. So really, if we want to have peace in the world, these cultures and differences must be brought to an end. As long as we think in an ununited way, the whole of Asia can be united. We can call that the United Kingdom. That way of being united is the most important thing. That is being civilized. There can be cultural exchanges and not sticking to the cultures and becoming attached to cultures. This is the meaning of metta. The whole teaching of the Buddha is based on what is called metta. Metta or Maitri. This thing called metta and Maitri is to cultivate a broad mind. Broad means not thinking of just myself, but thinking, may all beings be well and happy. May all beings means not just people of your family, not just people of your neighborhood, not just people of even your whole country, which is called patriotism. Patriotism is not enough. We have to think of all human beings. Even that is not enough. all living beings, even animals are included. Not only animals, even there are kinds of beings who are called pretas, devas, and all these unseen beings. All beings have to be included in this. Otherwise it is not metta. So this united way of thinking, may all beings be well and happy. Now even, you see, today people, even within the family, they begin to fight. The husband and wife begin to fight. Or the children begin to fight. Or the parents quarrel with the children. Now all these things happen because people begin to think in terms of I and you. If we begin to think in terms of I and you, then there is a division. Instead of thinking of I and you, we should be thinking in terms of we. There should be no division between the husband and the wife. If you are married and if you are building up a family, not two people living together, there is only one person, and that is the family. So in the same way, if we can think of the whole world, everyone is a human being. And even the animals are living beings. So if we begin to think like that, then there will be peace and happiness in the world. We cannot bring about peace by fighting or quarreling. Some people want to wage wars in order to bring about peace. How can we bring about peace by waging wars? So the only way is to practice metta. This means the real disunity is coming not from outside but from inside. It is inside, in our own mind. We cannot change the world without changing ourselves. Some people try to change the world thinking, but if you change the outside world, then the inside will be changed automatically. It doesn't work that way. If we want to change the outside, we have to change the inside. It is the inside where we find all the selfishness, the self-centeredness, because of the emotion. As I have been saying many times, there are two parts of our mind, the thinking part and the emotional part. It is this emotional part that is self-centered. It is only by getting rid of these emotions that we can have peace in the world. Now, some people think of two kinds of emotions, positive emotions and negative emotions. The selfish emotions and the unselfish emotions. They say metta, karuna, mudita, upekha. These are unselfish emotions. But the fact is there are no unselfish emotions. All emotions are self-centered. These emotions have been useful for animals to defend themselves, because in this world, some people believe that this world was created by a God. But the problem is, if this God created the world, look at how the world has been created. One animal lives by eating other animals. If that animal lives by eating other animals, then another bigger animal might come and eat that animal also. So, is that the way a God should be creating the world? You see, it's not only animals, even human beings are exploiting other human beings. This is what some people who are creating wars because of this, and some philosophers like Marx started talking about a thing which is today called Marxism. All that is because some people are exploiting other people. And in order to live, what is this thing called business? Business is also a kind of exchange, but you are trying to exchange so that you get more than what you give. So if you get more than what you give, then you are exploiting. You see, if in order to live we have to exploit, then is that a peaceful world? You see, this whole world is in such a way that it is difficult to think that it is created by a God, and a God is supposed to be a good person and a wise person and also a very powerful person. This is why the Buddha didn't want to think in terms of a God who created the world. But still, in Buddhism, we have a person, we believe in a person who is perfect in knowledge, perfect in powers, and perfect in goodness. And that person is simply an ideal to be realized. And the whole practice of religion is to realize that ideal of perfection. And when a person realizes that ideal of perfection, he is called a Buddha. So this is why I say the real God of the Buddhist is the Buddha. Not God in the sense that one who is living in heaven. This God is a human being who reaches that state of perfection. That is why the Buddha used the term God become. Brahma Bhuto, the word for God in the Indian language was Brahma. Brahma not as the creator of the world, but Brahma as the perfect person who is perfect in knowledge, perfect in powers, and perfect in goodness. So that is the Buddha. And the whole teaching of the Buddha is to become a Buddha. That every person should become a Buddha. That becomes the ideal to be realized. And to realize that ideal means to become God. All religions are ultimately talking about union with God. If you unite with God, what happens to you? You become God. So ultimately, every religion is talking about uniting with God. Just like a river that falls into the ocean and becomes the ocean. And when it becomes the ocean, it's not the river anymore. So in the same way, when a person reaches that state of perfection, becomes God. So God is simply the ideal of perfection. And religion is an effort to realize that ideal of perfection. And what is that ideal of perfection? That is why the Buddha called Metta, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka was called Brahma Vihara. What is the meaning of Brahma Vihara? The divine dwelling. That is the meaning of Brahma Vihara. The divine dwelling. That state of mind called Metta, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka is perfect only in the Buddha. We may try to cultivate that, but we become perfect in that only when we have become a Buddha ourselves. That is the way to become Buddha. And even in Christianity they say God is love. If God is love, this love, which is the selfless love, not the selfish love, the selfless love is God. And when we reach this state of perfection, then we become God in this way. This is the teaching of the Buddha, which is the expansion of our consciousness. It is by expanding this consciousness that we become a Buddha, or broadening our mind. It is by broadening our mind that we become the Buddha. So that we think not only about ourselves, but about all beings. And when we think about all beings, our self disappears. And when the self disappears, all worries, anxieties disappear. Why? Because all worries and anxieties are self-centered. When the self disappears, we all become happy. So happiness, goodness, And perfection in knowledge, power, and goodness, all that comes from this reaching that state of perfection. Which is expanding or broadening our mind. So I think if you understood this, you have understood the essence of the teachings of the Buddha. And let us all try to expand our consciousness. So now is the time to ask questions.
Banting was saying that about we all should be growing from the inside out. However, society today, due to, as I say, the capitalism, the commercialization, we are all been programmed to grow from the outside in, right? Majority of us. So a lot of confusion, suffering, greed, because they are being programmed by the commercial mass. Now, I truly believe that some other gurus, they are going from the inside out. But how, as Banting already knows, the only way is to grow from the inside out. And as I say again, with the commercial dominate the mass media, the world, whatever knowledge you have, how would you spread the seed to more people? Apart from few people here setting example, but that would be more effective way. Would Banting have any possible method to propagate that concept of growing from the inside out?
Well, it's a good question, but the thing is that propagate